Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Oh my gosh. Um, hello, hello. Um, it's been a second since I have gone live from my office here at the library. After, my shift ended just a little bit ago. So, I always feel like it's apropos though, going live from here because of the ghost stories that I've gotten about, this library. So I don't know. I always enjoy that. I always enjoy going live from here. And I am, back to propping up my phone on a random stack of books that I have gathered from around my office. But at least today it's not precariously balanced on top of a water bottle, resting on top of some books. So there you go. How's everyone doing? I have a couple of ghost stories for you that I found from the Chronicling America Historic American Newspapers database that you all know, that I know and love, and talk about often. One of them is an article from the New York Tribune from May 6th of 1906. And then the other one is an article from the Detroit Evening Times from March 5th, 1944. So, those are the stories that I have. The first one is like an assortment of little short snippets. I'm probably not going to read the entirety of that article. I just figured I would read a few of the standout snippets. But yeah, it's got some really interesting like illustrations in it, which is like another reason that I love looking at old newspaper articles, for the illustrations as well. And like some of the ads that you can see, they're just, I don't know, they're just wonderful. So yeah, this first one, let's just jump into it. The first one is titled True Ghost Stories, and it was published in the May 6th, 1906 edition of the New York Tribune. And this one actually does have a byline. We don't often get a byline in these older newspaper articles, but it was written by Robert Leffingwell, and it's just a medley, if you will, of various little ghost stories, not necessarily attributed to anyone throughout. So just like ghostly tales. But yeah, I also love that this was published in like the May 6th edition of the New York Tribune. You would think that like, oh, was this, with a title like True Ghost Stories, was it published during, September or October? No. May 6th. I love it. So let's get into it. So this first one, like I said, it's just an assortment of ghostly tales put together by this fellow, Robert Leffingwell. And then the second one is a story about poltergeist. A poltergeist. Oh, look at the filter doing its thing, like as soon as I start talking about the poltergeist. A poltergeist case from Nova Scotia that was investigated by the Society of Psychical Research. Colleen, why aren't there typically bylines? I don't know, actually, but I'm sitting in front of my computer, so let's Google that. Why aren't there bylines in historic newspapers? Let's see. Oh, there is a newspaper in Springfield published a story one time that said History of Newspaper Bylines in Journalism. Let's take a look at them. I'm not going to read the AI overview. How do I turn that off on my work computer? Anyways, okay. So in October 2019, a journalist from the News Leader, which is a newspaper out of Springfield, which Springfield though? I don't think Springfield, Illinois. It's not immediately, it says Ozarks. Anyways, whatever. It says here, why did stories not have bylines? A main argument for anonymity was that the publication was more important than the name of whoever wrote the story. I don't like, that seems kind of, anyways, apparently there was, a book written in 1999 about the history of the New York Times that said the owner and publisher of the paper was strongly anti-byline. They had an ironclad policy on who got individual credit at the New York Times, insisting that the business of the paper must be absolutely impersonal. Bylines on stories were virtually non-existent, and no editor, reporter, or business manager was permitted to have stationery with their name on it. Many publishers did not want writers to become celebrities who might draw a following, demand more money, or leave the publication in pursuit of higher pay. Other publishers, though, took the opposite tack. They wanted reporters to be celebrities with devoted readers because it was in the best financial interests of the publication. The middle ground for most newspapers was that a byline was warranted only for outstanding work or front page stories. Okay. But then this journalist also says another reason, though, and they say the best reason in their view is that the use of bylines is that anonymity leads to lack of accountability, accuracy, and fairness. Yeah, for sure. So I think that's why, like, nowadays you see more bylines. Okay. Thanks, Colleen, for asking that question so we could go on a little journey. And that was also just a very quick, like, Google response, like, just a little Google inquiry there. But like I said, I didn't go to like the AI overview because I mean, I'm not exactly sure where their sources are coming from, but I saw that a newspaper, the Springfield News Leader, did a report on it in their October 22nd, 2019 edition. So, yeah, apparently it's a pretty involved reasoning, you know, multiple reasonings. Okay, so True Ghost Stories, published in the May 6th, 1906 edition of the New York Tribune. Let's get into it. It begins. Old-fashioned ghost stories nearly always used to have a strange setting. They were generally laid in the dark, in strange scenes and out-of-the-way places where witnesses were impossible. The very conditions made the role of the skeptic easy. But here are stories of ghosts seen under commonplace, everyday surroundings and told in a plain, matter-of-fact way that carries conviction. 2, at least, of these ghosts were seen in full light, and all the tales are corroborated by others than the narrators, which makes it impracticable to laugh them out of court. Kudos for using the word impracticable. Jeez. There was always something hard to shake off about the ghost story. It's so old and so universal. Our ancestors, as far back as one cares to go, had ghosts. They were, so to speak, part of the household furniture, like the woman in the organ builder's story which follows, and were handed down with the rest of the heirlooms. I like that concept, and I like how that was just said, that the ghosts were part of the household furniture and handed down with the rest of the heirlooms. All right, that was pretty poetic. I can't help but think too of like my own family's ghost stories. They absolutely are handed down. Let's continue. There are many good old houses in England where there have been family ghosts for generations. Regular visitants to be taken for granted, just as the secret staircase, the ruined moat, and the family portraits. Okay, look, you know what? I am damn sure not ever going to take a secret staircase or a moat for granted. I feel like the way that was like written is just kind of like indicative of like clearly how unappreciative people in England are, who have secret, like this. Okay, this was written in 1906. Who is out there taken for granted that they have a secret staircase and a ruined moat? Like, my God. Anyways, let's continue. The same thing is true in less degree in New England. There are old Salem and Boston houses that have their ghosts, which time cannot lay, but in their appointed seasons they walk and may still be seen upon their way. I love that. I love that. If you're just recently joining, we're reading a May 1906 article from the New York Tribune titled True Ghost Stories, that are just like little snippets of experiences. A little while ago, science was going to explain or expel the ghosts, but they're still here. They have even grown more apparent. Instead of vanishing, they have come into clearer light, and soon we may be writing their biographies. The dream. The literal dream. Give me a ghostie so I can write its biography. Are you kidding me? That's the dream right there. It is, in fact, from the data collected by scientists and skeptics that these stories are taken. The narrators tell the tales in their own words. And now they're going to get into some of those snippets given to them from apparently these scientists and skeptics, although none of them are named. So we don't know who gave these snippets, but all we know is that apparently they come from scientists and skeptics. But let me backtrack a little bit, because the author here says, a little while ago, science was going to explain or expel the ghosts. Now remember, this was written in 1906. And so, like, formally, the Society for Psychical Research, the British version, had only been around for about 60 years at this point. So I think that's what this author is, the author of this article is referring to when he writes, a little while ago, science was going to explain or expel the ghosts. I think I would guess, based on my knowledge and context, clues, that he's, referencing the efforts of people like the Society for Psychical Research, that was founded in 1840. And then in the U.S., no, not 1840, 1882. I'm getting 1840 mixed up with the boom of spiritualism. So anyways, I think what he's referring to is the rise of psychical investigators who were made up of people from various departments of the academy, from, psychology to, chemistry and, astronomy and all sorts of, fields. So I just kind of think that little snippet, it's kind of fun when you know a little bit about the, the history of a topic, and you can kind of see it's kind of like you're reading or finding like an Easter egg, you know what I mean? Okay. Anyways, enough of me segueing. Let's get back into it. So the author tells us, it is in fact from the data collected by scientists and skeptics that these stories are taken. The narrators tell the tales in their own words. So this first snippet is titled A British Army Officer's Story. A British Army Officer's Story. And it begins, About Christmas time, some years ago, being an officer on duty, I was seated at the mess table at Aldershot. There were 10 or 12 other officers present, and among them John Atkinson, the surgeon major of the regiment, who sat on my right, but at the end of the table, furthest from me and the next to Russell. I was sitting at the end of the table, directly facing the window. At about 8:45 p.m., Atkinson suddenly glared at the window at his right, thereby attracting the notice of Russell, who, seizing his arm, said, "Good gracious, doctor, what's the matter with you?" This caused me to look in the direction in which I saw Atkinson looking, at the window opposite, and there I saw, for the curtains were looped up, although the room was lit by a powerful central gaslight in the roof and by candles on the table, I saw a young woman in what appeared to be a somewhat worn bridal dress walking or gliding slowly past the window from east to west. She was about at the center of the window when I observed her, and outside the window. No person, however, could have actually been in the position where she appeared, as the window in question is about 30 feet above the ground. I love it. Oh my God. I love it. The next one is titled The College Man's Story. The College Man. This was written in like 1906. So, behind this strange record, there seems to be a tale of romance and strife that suggests the days of Scott's novels. In the spring term 1898, I had gone to bed unusually late, about 1:30 in the morning, and shortly after getting into bed, I heard a noise in my sitting room and called out, "Who's there?" Okay, it's already a spooky story. Receiving no answer, I got out of bed and went into my sitting room. It was a moonlit night, the blind was up, and there was still a fire burning in the grate. I saw a figure standing by the window with its back turned to me. Oh my God, why is it so freaky when it's like they're not looking, like their back is turned to you? Like, why is that so much freakier than if they were just like, you just looked over and it was just like staring at you? Jesus. Okay. Anyways, let me stop editorializing. I saw a figure standing by the window with its back turned to me, which as soon as I entered the sitting room, turned around and walked toward me. It's always a window. It's always a window, Colleen. You're right. I am just picturing now like that on a t-shirt with like a little ghosty like looking through it, like it's always a window. Turned around and walked toward me. It was about the middle height and loosely dressed, as I thought, in gray. The face was a long, clean-shaven one, cadaverous. Ugh, God. And at the same time, pitiful in expression. And I am perfectly confident when I say that I could see right through the figure and distinctly saw the bars on the window through it. What? I was naturally excessively frightened and for a second could say or do nothing. Then I turned and bolted into my bedroom and locked the door, and shortly afterward heard a shuffling noise, oh God, as of someone leaving my room and passing along the passage. Anyways, I then lit a candle and went into my sitting room again, but saw nothing. What? I did not see anything more of it, though several other men in college had similar experiences of it. What? These are spookier than usual. I know, these are spooky. It's the windows. It's those windows. I did not see anything more of it, though several other men in college had similar experiences of it that term in 1898. Then came my second experience. No, this bro's got two experiences. I had been working till 11 and then went to bed. Sometime in the night, I cannot say exactly when, I was awakened by a sound in my room. I lit a candle and went into my sitting room to see who was there. Let me scroll. Sorry, scrolling in newspaper. For some moments I saw nobody and was going back to bed when I caught sight of a figure standing in a corner of my room. Not the corner. Why? The windows and corners are so freaky. Is the corner freaky just because it makes like natural shadows? I don't really know. Anyways, I saw a figure standing in a corner of my room. It was exactly similar to the one I had seen 3 terms previously. So 3 terms, if it's anything like it is today, would be like a year and a half later between this guy's experiences. I don't know. It was exactly similar to the one I had seen 3 terms previously. The face had the same pitiful and mournful looking expression, and it advanced toward me, holding out its hands as if it wanted something. I just got chills. There's nobody down here in my section of the library. I mean, the library's still open. There's people upstairs, but there's nobody down here in my little office area. Okay. I remember no more. I was terribly frightened and fainted right away. Fainted? This poor guy. But he was holding the candlestick, wasn't he? Jeez, it's going to burn your house down because these ghosties were making you faint. Okay, I remember no more. I was terribly frightened and fainted right away. I was found by my scout the next morning when he came to call me. Oh, he fainted hard and then just stayed asleep. Oh my God. He was probably real sore in the morning. When he came to call me, lying in front of my fireplace with the extinguished candle on the floor. Well, at least you didn't burn your whole dorm down. The story is corroborated by a fellow student who further says in his narrative, after recounting several appearances of the ghost, after this, the same thing happened 2 or 3 times, and I was able to see that the figure appeared to be dressed in knee breeches. Just breeches is such a great word. And stockings of a dark texture, and each time all it did was gaze sadly at me. I was never able to challenge it on account of fright. Whoa, that is freaky. The next short snippet here, well, that was redundant, right? Because a snippet is short. So the next short story is titled A Ghostly Duel. A ghostly duel. Oh my God. Bridges! Monica. A ghostly duel begins. One night I was awakened and sitting up thought I heard a slight noise in my sitting room. I listened and it seemed to continue as though a scuffle was going on. I'm already terrified. I reached out of bed and pushed open the door, which I could reach from the bed, and looked into the other room. I hope there's probably going to be one. It was moonlight, and the light was coming in from the quadrangle, although the blind was drawn. Okay, so there is, but there's blinds, and they're closed. Anyways. The noise was still going on in a dark corner of the room. What? There's corners. I'll get you every time. In a dark corner of the room, and as I looked, 2 figures emerged from the dark into the patch of light which came through the window. Colleen, there it is. There, I mean, if it's not the window, it's the patch of light being reflected through the window. Okay, as I looked, 2 figures emerged from the dark into the patch of light which came through the window. They appeared to be fighting. I can only use that word to describe it. It was just as though I was watching the enactment of a duel, for though I could see no weapons, yet the figures were apart, and one for certain had his hand toward the other. There was no imagination about this. I had to watch in spite of myself. I had to watch in spite of myself. I love that. That's a wonderful takeaway. I feel like most of us would probably be the same, right? Like if something kind of like, I don't know, spooky happened, we'd be like, well, I mean, it was kind of freaky, but I had to watch in spite of myself. Anyways, and one figure was, I feel sure, the figure of my previous visitor. So is this a continuation of like the person who, anyways, I don't know how short or long the time was in which the scuffle lasted, but presently there was a slight thud, and then my sitting room door shut audibly as though someone had gone out. I jumped out of bed and, striking a match, inspected the room, but there was nothing to be seen. Naturally, I came to the conclusion that some of the men were playing a joke on me, and in the morning I went to everyone in turn to know if they had been in my room, as I had had enough of it. They all emphatically disclaimed that they had not, and a meeting was convened to discuss the matter. Oh my God. I am sure from that time that nobody had a part in it, and it was then that I was told of the suspected ghost. What? The next one is super spooky, and it is titled The Malignant Head. The Malignant Head. You guys. What in the Are You Afraid of the Dark? Okay, the malignant head. Here we go. One wonders what explanation could be offered for the apparent malignity behind this appearance. There's going to be a window. It was in the morning of a day in the spring of 1875. Yeah, what a title. And what a way that they just worded that. It was in the morning of a day in the spring of 1875 that I saw the head. Oh, I'm terrified, actually. That I saw the head, which was afterwards seen by another member of our family. I got actually kind of teary-eyed because I'm scared. I had been sent out of the room for someone, and as I looked up to call them, I saw the most horrible head looking over the balusters at me. The Malignant Head by R.L. Stine. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that absolutely. Was R.L. Stine alive in 1906? Did he write this? Was he just using a pen name? Did he write for the New York Tribune? Because what? Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. I had been sent out of the room for someone, and as I looked up to call them, I saw the most horrible head looking over the balusters at me. But why? I mean, I guess we're going to find out, but why are they describing it that way? They're just saying I saw the most horrible head. They're not saying I saw the most horrible person. I don't think there's more to it than just the head. I think it's like a disembodied head. Okay. It was the face of a man, but the hair was long. The parchment-like skin was... Why is the filter doing the freaky thing when I'm talking about this freaky malignant head? Oh my God. Also, what if that was the last thing I ever said? Why is the filter doing this freaky thing when I'm talking about the freaky malignant head? Okay, you know what? Actually, even though I have my door closed, there probably is somebody right outside, down here, I don't know, who came down to get some supplies or go to the mail room or something, and they hear me screeching about a malignant head over and over. Yeah, and it would, anyways. They probably just wouldn't think anything of it. They'd probably just be like, oh, it's just Courtney. Just Courtney's being weird again. Okay. Where are we? What is happening? Okay. It was the face of a man, but the hair was long. The parchment-like skin was drawn closely over the face and gave a skull-like look to it. The mouth, full of great teeth, was twisted in a horrid leer, but what frightened me most was the expression of the eyes. They were so light and full of the most wicked cruelty, as if they had existed for the sole purpose of trying to terrify little children, such as I was then. Oh, what? Oh my God, this is so freaky. I had a great feeling of indignation in my heart as I stood for what seemed like ages to me looking at it, for I could not draw my eyes away. Then I went quietly back to the room I had come from, and being proud and sensitive, never told anyone a word about it for many years. What? What? The mystery is only made the deeper by the corroboration of the girl's sister, who saw the strange portent 5 years later. Okay, so now here's a report from the sister. One evening, about 9 o'clock in the late autumn of 1880, as I was running upstairs, I paused at the foot of the top flight and looked up, prior to calling to my sister, who I thought was in her bedroom. To my horror, I saw, I have chills. To my horror, I saw in the darkness, leaning over the balusters, skirting the landing above me, a head, Colleen, a head silhouetted against the window. Silhouetted against the window. Why is it always a window? It was a most sinister head, with a covering of shaggy hair. I particularly noticed the eyes, which were light and evil. Also the mouth, which was... Excuse me, let me turn the newspaper page. Play some music, especially the mouth, which was distorted with a leer, which seemed to me the essence of malignity. What? It was looking wickedly at me, but I did not wait whether it would speak, for I was so frightened that I turned on my heels and ran away. This experience, related by a man of much experience of life, is interesting as one of many. Okay, so that was the end. Now they're saying, okay, this next experience related by a man of much experience of life. That's such a poetic way of saying this old guy. Like, they didn't just say like this experience related by this old guy. They said related by a man of much experience of life. Poetry. But like also, how are you just going to end the malignant head story like that? Like, you just end it? You just end it? You just leave us all sitting here like in terror with like goosebumps and like freaking out? Like, what? All right. I mean, editorial choice, I suppose. So this old guy's experience reads, I went to bed about 10:30 and shortly afterward was sound asleep. I wish I could go to bed and fall asleep shortly after. Like, I'm so envious of that. They said up front that these were short. I mean, true. You got me. They did say it was short, but just so abrupt. I went to bed about 10:30 and shortly afterward was sound asleep. In the night, I heard loud talking in the room. What? But at first did not open my eyes. What? Why you didn't open your eyes at first? Oh, well, maybe it just took you a second to wake up. As the talking continued, I looked up, only as it continued. I looked up and distinctly saw an old lady standing at the foot of the bed, gazing intently at me. What? After watching her for some time, I reached out my hand to the matchbox to strike a light. But as soon as I moved my hand toward the matches, I saw the face getting more indistinct. Therefore, I drew back my hand and watched the figure getting more and more dim until it suddenly vanished. No. Then that was me. The article continues. Then a curious thing happened. Outside the house and within 10 yards of the bedroom window, the bedroom window, I had 2 kennels in which a bulldog and a fox terrier were. The moment the figure vanished, these 2 dogs began to bark furiously and seemed terribly excited, as if they were trying to get at someone. Oh my God. That's where that story ends. That's just where that story ends. Oh my God, just some freaky old lady, just like slowly like getting more and more like blurry and blurrier and just like fading away. Are you kidding me? This is terrifying. Look, I browsed this article. I did not read the details of the malignant head or this old lady, and now I'm getting scared. That's okay. Let's continue. Anyways, that was freaky. That was right freaky. I heard someone say that one time when I went to North Carolina, like back in like college. I took a trip with some friends to visit some family of theirs and take a tour of UNC Chapel Hill. And we stayed with their family, and one of their family members was asking us about this like museum exhibit that we went to. And it had to do with like, it was like the bodies exhibit. Do you guys remember when like that, like, anyways. And we were telling them about it, and their family member said, as she was listening to us talk, she goes, "That's right, freaky." But she said it like in a North Carolina accent, and I always thought that was so cute and funny. So ever since then, when I'm like, "That's freaky," I'm always like, "That's right, freaky." The animals do know. The animals do know. Okay. Do I want to read? Oh, that next one is kind of, The next one is, the bodies exhibit was, Kristen, the bodies exhibit was your first date with Will, the first date with your husband. I love this. Oh my God. I remember, this might be kind of gruesome, but like there was an exhibit, no more gruesome than the fucking malignant head. Like, excuse, like I'm like offended at myself. Like the way that I just, what do I think I'm reading? Like, do I dissociate when I like read these articles and I don't even, anyways. Focusing. I remember going to the bodies exhibit in North Carolina and staring in somewhat abject horror. Now that I look back, it might be, could it be like a formative time in later being diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder? Perhaps. But I remember like standing in front of this exhibit that was, it was like 2 figures that were like holding hands with each other and like kind of slightly like leaning back, like you're holding hands with someone and you both like tilt back to like balance or whatever. But it was, how do I describe this? Both figures were from the same person, the same body. Just one of the figures was, the skin, and the other figure were the nerves. And they were holding hands with each other and like looking at each other. And I, just stood in front of that for what felt like hours. But I like, so much so that like the person I was with circled back around and like stood next to me, and all I could say was, "He's looking at himself." That's all I could say. Did you see that one too? Okay, you guys know? Okay, did you see that one? Did you see that? Did you see the guy looking at himself? His skin and his nervous system? And they were just looking at themselves? Look. Actually, I might need to talk to my therapist about this. Okay, let's get into The next article, oh my God, I feel like I need to watch Toy Story after reading those stories and remembering the bodies exhibit. What in the world? What in the world? Kristen and Colleen, do you guys remember that part of the bodies exhibit? Did they was it like a traveling exhibit? Anyways, okay. The second article is from the March 5th, 1944 edition of the Detroit Evening Times. Colleen, you saw it? You saw it too? You remember it? Did you think it was right freaky too? I'm like, actually, oh God, it was like, I remember the feeling in Miami. Oh my God. Why does that make it like even scarier for some reason? I don't know why. How do they transport an exhibit like that? I don't know. I mean, it was a cool exhibit, don't get me wrong, but looking back at it now, I'm like, I think I might have been a little more disturbed than what I might not have been prepared as a college student to go and see that exhibit. Anyways. And the billboards for advertising that exhibit, do y'all remember? I remember they just said bodies real big and that's all it said. My God, that was probably I was in college, so oh my God, it was probably 2009, maybe 2008. No, it would have been earlier. It would have been 2006 or 2007. We can stop talking about how long ago that was right now. The second article is from March 5th, 1944, from the Detroit Evening Times. You saw, okay, Kristen, you saw it in 2009. Okay, this makes sense then, yeah. So I think it was 2006 or 2007. And yeah, I saw it in North Carolina, Chapel Hill area, because I was touring UNC Chapel Hill, at least in Louisville, but it was traveling. Oh, God, I just will never forget looking at that. I will never forget looking at that thing. That was so freaky. Okay. How do we I don't know how I segue onto the things that I segue onto, but anyways, it sure was no malignant head, that's for sure. That story, that snippet from, let's go back here, the New York Tribune from 1906. That was pretty wild. That was enjoyable though. I was surprised by how small the people were. Oh, I don't remember that. Look, to be honest, I don't remember much of that exhibit other than that one display, because that messed me up. That actually, I don't remember too much more of that, because I think it really did mess me up. Oh my God. Oh, what a wild world. The next article is titled Ghost Hunter Garrett's Newest House-Wrecking Ghost. I love it. And this, Colleen, we have another byline. This was written by Dr. Thomas L. Garrett, president of the Garrett Foundation for Psychological Research. So, let's get into it. March 5th, 1944 edition of the Detroit Evening Times. Ghost Hunter Garrett's newest house-wrecking ghost. It isn't often that investigators get in on the beginning of a ghost story. That's such a good first line. Even if the haunting begins today, it is usually a week or so before reports bring investigators to the scene. And by then, testimony is so garbled that it is virtually worthless. That seems like a very quick turnaround to me. Even if the haunting begins today, it's usually a week or so. So let's say a week or two before reports bring investigators to the scene. okay, whatever, let's continue. But in Halifax, Nova Scotia, I got to the Lewis Hilchie house, Hilchie, in case anybody wants to, I don't know, go looking it up or whatever. I got to the Lewis Hilchie house in time to get clear firsthand accounts from the family and neighbors and authorities of a ghost story in its inception. Love it. It all started in a little cottage at Eastern Passage, an otherwise peaceful Halifax suburb. I mean, you had me at little cottage. I think I would pretty happily cohabitate with a ghost if I was living in a little cottage in the Eastern Passage, because that sounds pretty atmospheric. But let's continue. As if coming from nowhere, 3 deep and hollow knocks sounded through the house. What? Day and night since that evening of December 24th, 1943. Left out that it was Christmas Eve? December 24th, 1943, eerie, mysterious things have been happening. Having been a student for 20 years of psychic phenomena, I was interested. When the American Weekly suggested that I look into the matter, I went to the home. After examination of the family and neighbors, I looked over the premises, and I found everything normal. Taking these people at their word, I pursued my research. This is an honest report on my findings. At first consideration, I decided that it was a so-called poltergeist that annoyed the Hilchie family. Christmas ghost story, yes. The term poltergeist is derived from a rumbling noise or to rattle, a boisterous fellow. The root word polter, a poltergeist then, is the parlance of psychic investigators as a boisterous ghost. Such a ghost was mentioned in the case of Jacqueline Thomas of Windsor, Ontario, who constantly was scratched by unseen hands. And then they have a picture of her wrapped up with her hands are all wrapped up. Oh geez. Like a toddler, like a newborn. She's like got her hands all swaddled. Anyways, why are her hands swaddled? I guess to prove that she's not scratching herself. Anyways, such a ghost was mentioned in the case of Jacqueline Thomas of Windsor, Ontario, who constantly was scratched by unseen hands. Clearly not hers because they're all bundled up. Surely the manifestation in the Hilchie house as... It's so alliterative. As related by Mr. Hilchie, his wife Ethel, his daughter Catherine. I'm just laughing because for some reason that last name is just so funny to me. But I think it's also like nervous laughter after having remembered like that exhibit at the bodies display. Anyways, his daughter. Okay, so Mr. Hilchie, his wife Ethel, his daughter Catherine, and others indicated something strange at work. First, they reported, the washing machine moved across the floor. Do you know what, though? My washing machine did that one time, and that's just because the drum was... Actually, I think it's because I overfilled it. I was about to sit here and be like, the drum was busted. No, I overfilled it, and I knew what I did. And my washing machine literally, moved. Like 2 or 3 feet. But anyways, it moved. And honestly, ever since then, I've been a little scared to use my washing machine. I should maybe also add that to the list of things to talk to my therapist about. First, they reported the washing machine moved across the floor. Then, a table at which Mrs. Hilchie and 3 of her children were seated tipped forward, but is this a typo? Is this a word? They spelled it floorward? Like floor and ward. They put it together. Floorward. That is a great typo. That's adorable. I love it. Laundry day is a very dangerous day. Rocco. Oh, this is such a throwback. I love it. Laundry day is a dangerous day. makes me nervous. Why does laundry make me nervous? Why does anything make me nervous? Okay. Floorward. The table-tipped floorward. I love it. This typo is great. Do you guys know? I will tell you about some of my typos. A typo that I had, I mean, I found it and fixed it. I fixed like all of these typos. But when I was writing about a haunted library in Connecticut, I wrote, I don't even know why I did this one, but instead of writing Connecticut, I wrote Connecticutie. Like, I wrote Connecticut and just added an IE. Like, just didn't even think about it. I wrote Connecticutie. I think that should be the name of like a dating app in Connecticut. I think I should pitch that. I mean, if it's not a thing, it should be a thing. Anyways, Connecticutie. What are some other typos? I also, when I was writing about a haunted library in Minnesota, I wrote Minnesota. So I guess like my college Spanish was just kind of the other Minnesota, in case you were wondering, apparently. And then should have left it in the book. I should have left Connecticutie in the book. I mean, there's still time for me to go back and like go back and appeal to my editor to like have these. Anyways, whatever. Another one, my favorite one though. Oh God, my favorite one. Well, I don't know. Connecticutie is kind of fun, and Minnesota is funny. Anyways, but another typo that I made. This one is a little more. This one's like PG-13. Okay, I was attempting to write scientists, like plural, scientists, but I did not write that. I wrote scientists. Scientists. That might actually be my favorite typo. I can't even remember what context I was writing that word in. Like, that could have been pretty funny too, depending on the context of like how that word was being used in the sentence. Anyways, sometimes I think about that and it gives me a good laugh. Okay. Where are we even, I segue so much and then I lose my spot and I don't even know what I said. Okay. Oh yes. The table was tipping floorward. That's right. That typo segued my weird little brain. Next, scissors on a shelf trembled and shook and moved forward. Okay. I'm like unimpressed. A bowl of soup levitated itself. What? A bowl of soup levitated itself and tipped over in Catherine's lap? Jesus. Would have loved to have found that in a book. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Do you know what I did put on my CV though? And I had it on my CV for a while. But like, here's the thing. I had it on my CV because I was updating my CV to turn in. Listen to this. Oh my God. I had this on my CV and I was about to, as I was updating it, to turn in for going up for tenure. Okay. Like 4 years ago. And I luckily submitted like everything to my colleagues, and before I officially submitted it, to say, hey, can you look over everything and just give me your thoughts on just how I've got it organized, and can you just give me your thoughts on it, right? And one of my colleagues wrote back and they were like, oh yeah, like everything looks good, but they're on your CV, you have a typo. You might want to double check the name of your publisher. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? So I made a typo when I put the name of my publisher. Roman and Littlefield is the publisher of my books. They have, for this third one, like it's still technically them, even though like they got bought out by Bloomsbury. But anyways, this was for my other books. Roman and Littlefield. Do you know what I wrote? And I didn't even realize it. I wrote Roman and Little Fiend. Roman and Little Fiend. And I was about to turn that in for my tenure case. Are you kidding me? Roman and Little Fiend? I mean, I do love that typo though. Roman and Little Fiend. I mean, at least I wasn't sending it to like, at least it wasn't something like they had requested. Like, hey, sent like something I was doing internally with like my publisher. And they were like, send us an updated CV for like, I don't know, website or marketing or something. And then like I send it to them, calling them Roman and Little Fiend. Jeez, they're not fiend. They've been nothing but nice. That would feel so bad. I would feel so bad. I'd probably have to mail them like a gift or something. I would feel so bad about that. Okay, we've got tables. We got the washing machine moving across the floor. We got tables tipping over. The scissors, I'm not really impressed with. But we have a bowl of soup levitating itself and tipping over in someone's lap. The article continues. An alarm clock hurled itself from a dresser. That's pretty impressive. A kettle of boiling water raised itself from the stove and fell to the floor. What? Sounds like a fun band named though. Oh my God, wait. Okay. That's good. That is a good one. That's a good one. A kettle of boiling water raised itself from the stove and fell to the floor. A hammer flew down the stairs. Okay, I mean, now it's getting a little wild. More knocks and still more all over the house. One evening, Mrs. Hilchey was descending the stairs when something grabbed the heel of her slipper. What? That's freaky. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like going down going down or upstairs that don't have like the, I don't know, what are the parts? Like not the, is it like the risers, the treads or the risers? I don't fucking know. But like when you, obviously like when the stairs, like you can see through them. I don't like that because of this, because I'm always like, but what if there's like a ghost or like some intruder or a serial killer just waiting to like grab your feet? It's too much. A day or two later, the same thing happened, but this time Mrs. Hilchey was thrown down the stairs, breaking her ankle. See? That's what I'm talking about. That's why you don't have stairs like that. That's why you don't have stairs like that, because the poltergeist and the serial killers are going to get you. The article continues. Like I'm like blaming like Mrs. Hilchey for getting got by a poltergeist. Okay. Investigation revealed that all the mysterious manifestations appeared to have taken place in the presence and the unknown to herself cooperation of Catherine. Oh no. In other words, it's a clear case of telekinesis. That is the unexplained displacement of objects and sounds. The telekinetic phenomena, unlike poltergeist manifestations, appear to be attached to a particular person or persons. There has also been like some weird, so telekinesis was just like another way. It's an older, slightly archaic way of talking about psychokinesis. Okay. There have been like some strange things happening here at work, and it's actually turned into a bit of a running joke. I don't know if I talked about this, like if I have, let me know. But it's turned into a running joke that when I am upstairs at like our service desk, weird things happen. And it was a couple of weeks ago on a Friday, I was up there with a colleague of mine, and like the lights flickered, the elevator doors were like opening and closing. And she was like, this doesn't happen unless you're up here. These things don't happen unless you're at the desk. And I was like, what? And she was like, weird things happen when you're at the desk. And it was like, kind of a joke or whatever, and we were having fun with it. But they also know, like, I mean, everyone here knows that I'm like a weirdo. So then I go to Baltimore, right? I go to Baltimore and I'm digging around in the archives, and I come back, to work here like last Monday, and my colleagues are like, they were like, by chance, were you doing anything particularly strange on Friday, like the last day that I was at the archives? And I was like, why? And they were like, well, just because like things were really going crazy here in the library. Like the elevator doors opened like multiple times, and the water fountain went like crazy and was like spewing all this like water. And I was like, what? They were like, so what were you doing in the archives on Friday? And I was like, well, Friday, I actually happened to be listening to about 2.5 hours of audio recordings that Hans Holzer did with Ronnie DeFeo Jr., a psychic, his psychiatrist, a police officer who investigated the case, and the county historian. I was like, I'm just listening to like 2.5 hours of, Amityville interview recordings. So then last week, the week that I got back, I was at the desk another day, and I was sitting up there with my colleagues, and I was like, oh, hey, speaking of, those interviews that I listened to, I took a couple of recordings. Do you want to hear one of them? And I was scrolling through my phone to pull up like a snippet of one of those recordings to have my colleagues listen to. And you guys, the big like fire secure, I'm not gonna like explain this correctly, but like the doors going down to the first floor, the bottom floor, clearly awakening your latent psychokinetic potential. Look, every time I go to the archives, it just grows, it just gets stronger. So like there's these big heavy doors that go down to the first floor, and they're always open except when the fire alarm goes off, because they're like fire prevention doors. So that I guess like if a fire, the doors are designed to try and like, blockade like fire. Anyways, they're always open, and they're magnetized, and they don't close unless the fire alarm goes off. So I'm sitting there at the desk, and I'm like scrolling through my phone. I'm like, speaking of these interviews, I have a recording on my phone. Let me pull it up and show you. As I'm doing that, we hear a noise, like some sort of like ping. And then we hear the sound of like doors slamming shut. And we're just like, what was that? So like we look around, and they were the fire doors that just suddenly demagnetized and slammed shut. What's happening? And like my colleagues just like slowly turned to me, and they were like, they just like turned and pointed, and I was like, okay, maybe we'll just listen to the recordings another day. What is happening? But you know what? I hope I do have psychokinetic powers, and you know what? I hope I can learn to use them for good, right? Like, I don't know, levitating someone's phone or laptop in a committee meeting when I want the meeting to end. Or like, I don't know, flinging open the doors or something. I don't know. Anyways, I don't even know. Where were we? Let's get back to this. Okay. The Hilchey house and all this freaky stuff. Okay, so Mrs. Hilchey falls down the stairs, breaks her ankle. They think it's the daughter, Catherine. There we go. In other words, it's a clear case of telekinesis. The telekinetic phenomena, unlike poltergeist manifestations, appear to be attached to a particular person or persons. That's interesting. Setting off the sprinklers. That would be so great. Oh my gosh. that passage is interesting just now. The telekinetic phenomena, unlike poltergeist manifestations, appear to be attached to a particular person or persons. Unlike poltergeist appear. That's interesting because I've always ever really just heard, especially in the historic publications, that poltergeists also appear to be attached to a particular person. So it's interesting to read that passage here from 1944. Anyways, this phenomena occurring widely and going back to remote time, whatever, suggests that it may have originated long ago. Theories propounded by some psychic investigators to account for telekinetic phenomena are that the individual involved subconsciously assists in producing all of the strange phenomena. That invisible emanations produced by unknown forces actually are peculiar to certain people. These emanations are deduced from their manifestations to be psychic. Oh, here we go. This used to be a thing. Psychic semi-flexible rods projecting from the body of the telekinized person. The end portions of these semi-flexible rods being struck sharply on the floor, table, chair, or other body cause the raps or the knocks. That's how they sort of envisioned it, as these like psychic rods that that people could just like emanate outward from their body. I've seen some pictures and drawings of how they sort of envision that psychically happening. It's so great. The night preceding my arrival at the Hilche home, Catherine saw a strange looking man's face. Colleen, here we go. Catherine saw a strange looking man's face with bushy hair appear at the window. At the window. Why is it always a window? Literally, in every single story we've read tonight, there's been a window, right? I think. Yeah, in every single story we've read tonight, there's been a window. There's been a window. Now I'm just thinking of how many windows I have in my bedroom and how freaked out I'm going to be. That's okay. I'll just watch Toy Story. Recently, a stray dog came to the home and took to sitting on the doorstep and scrolling in newspaper again, and howling. Then more weird things happened. Okay, that's freaky. That is giving Amityville vibes right there. From the second floor, a pillow, 12 boxes of soap, and why do they have 12 boxes of soap? From the second floor, a pillow, 12 boxes of soap, and other articles fell down the stairs. I'm just still stuck on 12 boxes of soap. Anyways, while I was examining Mrs. Hilche, a teapot flew off a hook in the kitchen and whisked by the head of the oldest daughter, Gladys. I didn't see this, but heard the crash and Gladys's scream. What? Then one day, to Catherine's amazement, an egg jumped into the frying pan on the kitchen stove, and butter followed the egg as though propelled by unseen hands. What? Okay, but that just seems really cozy. I would not be mad about the ghost, trying to make themselves some breakfast. Especially if they, made enough for me. This just seems kind of, I don't know, this just seems considerate. Okay, Catherine, her mother, and sister Gladys consulted the Ouija board. Here we go. Consulted the Ouija board in search for a clue to the mystery of the strange happenings that have upset them in the neighborhood. In the United States, in recent years, similar visitations have upset two southern communities. In Jonesville, Louisiana, Alice Kirby, 13, was the center of telekinetic manifestations. Then there was the Bertha Seibert case. One morning, Mr. Seibert and his mother went into Bertha's bedroom demanding that she stop bouncing, but when she convinced them that she could not stop, I shouldn't laugh. They tried holding her down. The mattress continued tossing. Then all three of them got on the bed, but it just kept right on bouncing. That is so that's right, freaky. Investigation of telekinetic phenomena goes on. The theory of the psychic rods, accepted as it is by many psychic investigators, requires further substantiation. During my years of psychical research, I have investigated many such manifestations. Some I found to be frauds. However, others, as for example the Hilchey case, appear to be inexplicable on any other ground than some sort of psychic manifestation. What? And that is where the article ends. I'm scrolling the issues. That's where the article ends. It just ends right there. Okay. Oh, I think soap boxes were pretty small, like shoe boxes. Oh, okay. But shoe boxes are kind of big, right? Like a soap. Look, but hang on. Shoe boxes though are kind of big, right? I don't know. Anyways, I'm lost still on 12 boxes of soap. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it just sounds like a lot of people lived here. I don't know. Maybe they did a lot of laundry. Maybe laundry soap maybe you needed more back then. I don't know. This was 1944. This is great. So that was the article titled Ghost Hunter Garrett's Newest House-Wrecking Ghost, published in the March 5th, 1944 edition of the Detroit Evening Times. And it just, I don't know, we have no conclusion the only conclusion we have is that Dr. Thomas Garrett says, I've investigated many such manifestations. Some I found to be frauds. However, others, like this one, appear to be inexplicable on any other ground other than some sort of psychic manifestation. And that is how the article ends. What in the world? I love it. I love it. I will also be taking a deep dive into what soap boxes looked like in 1944 in Nova Scotia to better understand that. These are the takeaways. These are the takeaways that I have. What does that say? I don't know. Probably a lot. The other article that we read was titled True Ghost Stories from the May 6, 1906 edition of the New York Tribune, and that was absolutely terrifying. We heard about ghosts floating past windows 30 feet in the air, reports of a malignant head. Oh my God. That was the most terrifying story. That was the most terrifying story. And then this one about a Nova Scotian poltergeist case, which is actually not the only Nova Scotian poltergeist case, because the Antigonish poltergeist case, oh my God, that's hard to say those two words together, was another famous or perhaps infamous poltergeist case from Nova Scotia. Anyways, but this one involved the Hilchey family in the 1940s. And their floating teapots and eggs and butter that jumped into the pan as if by unseen hands, which I still think is very cozy and quite considerate of the family poltergeist. So, thanks for being here on this edition of Random Spooky Ghost Stories with a hefty dose of segues. That's what this series is called. Anyways, there's some really cool illustrations in this the Detroit Evening Times article about the Hilchey family, including a picture of Catherine and Gladys and their mom using a Ouija board. There's a picture. It's really cool. I just love looking through old newspapers. There is an illustration also of ghost hands it's a drawing. It's an illustration of ghost hands emanating out of one of, like, I guess it's supposed to represent one of the daughters who's at the stove cooking eggs. Oh my God. This is hilarious. And there's also a picture of the Hilchi house, which looks really cute. Again, look, I'm saying if I had like a little cottage in Eastern Passage, it sounds cozy. Once again, I'd have to set some boundaries to be like, if you want to cook eggs, that's fine. But I'm going to need you to stop grabbing people's feet through the stairs because that's not okay. See? Again, it's just, I think all it comes down to, we're learning repeatedly, it just comes down to boundaries, right? Anyways, that was a fun article. Okay, I hope everyone's doing good. I hope you're having a good Wednesday. Hope your week is going well. Yeah, I hope your week is going well. The weather in the evenings here in southern Indiana it's actually been a little cooler in general this week. It's been really nice. And then especially in the evening, it's been really nice and chill. Like I think my house, like today, like when I woke up was like at 68 and I was like, that's perfect. It's like the perfect weather to just start reading spooky stories. I mean, it's always the perfect weather to read spooky stories, but like it's especially perfect weather to read spooky stories. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Do you know what I said today at work? Like I said to my colleagues, I was like, I meant to go to Aldi when I left work the other day to get some applesauce and I never did. I have talked about applesauce so much at work this week. Probably about as often as I've talked about ghosts, and that's a lot. Anyways. Okay. I'll post a picture of, well, actually here, no, I don't want to move the camera because I've got it perched precariously on a whole bunch of books, but I will post a picture of the two sisters and their mom, using a Ouija board. It's a pretty cool picture. Anyways. I wish we could still open the newspapers and read these sorts of things today, but like also like, does anybody use newspapers? I don't know. Last semester in one of my first year seminar classes, I asked the class, I was like, do you guys listen to NPR? Because they had an interesting program on yesterday, and one of my students was like, no, I don't listen to it, but my mom does. And I died a little inside. Okay, I'm once again doing the long Midwestern goodbye. So hope y'all are well. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.